Someone is deeply, almost uncontrollably, in love with you. The reason behind it may unsettle you more than it comforts you because it has very little to do with who you believe you are as a person. Instead, it has everything to do with what you unknowingly awakened within them without even realizing it. Once you recognize this truth, it becomes extremely difficult to ignore or forget. You may assume that love grows from physical attraction, shared beliefs, or perfect timing. Yet that way of thinking feels safe, and safety often leads us away from the deeper reality. The mind naturally avoids anything that feels uncomfortable or difficult to face. In reality, love that feels overwhelming and almost irrational begins far beneath conscious awareness rather than through logic or careful reasoning. Without realizing it, you stepped into a hidden place within their mind that they had kept locked away for many years. The truth is that you did far more than simply make them feel happy. You made them feel genuinely understood in a way that quietly frightened them. That deep understanding is exactly where everything begins to become dangerous. When someone feels truly seen at such a profound level, they do not merely admire you from afar. They become intensely attached to you in ways that even they cannot fully understand. Most people completely overlook this. They believe that being loved simply means someone likes them. But what is happening here carries much greater emotional weight than simple affection. You awakened a deep recognition within them, a sudden awareness of emotions, memories, and truths they had hidden, suppressed, or refused to confront. Without trying, you became a mirror for their inner world. This did not happen because you were pretending to be extraordinary or making a special effort. It happened because you represented something they never expected and could neither control nor fully explain. Your unexpected presence unsettled their inner world because their mind had spent years protecting them, burying certain desires, hiding important needs, and rejecting painful truths. Then you appeared, and those defenses slowly began to collapse. That is why what they feel for you is not simple or straightforward. It is not completely pure or fully conscious. Instead, it combines longing, hidden fear, emotional projection, and something that comes remarkably close to obsession. You did not simply attract them with your personality, you shook something deep within them. Whenever the unconscious is disrupted in such a powerful way, it often feels as though destiny itself has taken control. You probably never noticed this happening. You did not do anything dramatic or carefully planned. You did not say flawless words or follow the usual patterns people expect. Instead, you quietly broke those expectations, and that unexpected difference captured their attention. The human mind depends heavily on familiar patterns. When something meaningful yet unpredictable enters its world, everything begins to shift. You became unpredictable in a way that felt deeply significant rather than confusing. To them, you represented something greater than yourself, and that is when their projections became even stronger. Gradually, they stopped seeing you as an ordinary person and began seeing you as the answer to a question they had never consciously asked. You filled an empty space within them that they had never been able to describe. Once this process begins, they do not simply fall in love in the ordinary sense. They fall into the meaning they attach to you. That is why walking away becomes incredibly difficult. Leaving you would force them to confront the hidden parts of themselves that your presence awakened. The mind resists that kind of confrontation at almost any cost. As a result, they continue holding on, even when the situation becomes confusing, painful, or impossible to explain through ordinary logic. Here is something that may be unsettling to consider. You did not only awaken something beautiful inside them, you also brought to the surface emotions that feel unstable and difficult to manage. Suppressed feelings rarely emerge quietly. They usually rise all at once, changing the way they see themselves, the way they see you, and the way they experience the world around them. They make clear boundaries disappear and create a powerful emotional force that feels completely genuine, but it may not always be based on actual facts. You may already notice it in small and subtle ways. There is a unique strength in the way they look at you or remain close to you. There is a quiet sense of pressure in the way they respond, communicate, or react around you. There is a feeling that something meaningful is happening, even during the moments when no words are exchanged between you. What makes this entire situation more complicated is that they do not fully understand their own emotions either. This process is not taking place in the part of the mind they consciously control through thoughts and reasoning. Instead, it develops beneath the surface in a deeper area where normal logic begins to lose its influence. In that hidden place, opposite emotions can exist together without creating conflict. Love and fear can become almost impossible to separate from one another. This is why their behavior may appear to change unexpectedly. In one moment, they seem completely drawn toward you with intense interest and emotional attraction. Then, in the next moment, they suddenly create distance and step away. Their real emotions have not disappeared during these moments of change. The withdrawal happens because their inner defenses become active and remind them that this connection carries genuine emotional risk. It reveals something within themselves that they may not feel ready to confront or understand completely. This constant movement creates a repeating unconscious pattern where desire appears first and fear follows closely behind. Closeness develops, and then distance quickly returns. Strong emotions rise, and then uncertainty takes control. Before long, you become part of this cycle, whether you recognize it clearly or not. A part of you can sense the unusual weight of this connection as it brings hidden emotions to the surface within you while creating a powerful transformation inside them. There was a specific moment when something deeper within them recognized you, making it impossible to return completely to the way things were before. This recognition was not connected only to your physical appearance or ordinary personality traits. Instead, it connected to what you represented in their unconscious mind, becoming a reflection of something they had searched for, feared, and secretly needed. Until you understand this truth, you may not fully realize why they find it difficult to let go of you, or why this connection feels so complicated, intense, and impossible to explain with simple words. Type yes if you want me to reveal what you unknowingly awakened inside them. You did not simply make them develop feelings for you. You awakened an inner force within them, something they had pushed away and hidden for many years, something that now refuses to remain silent. They attempted to convince themselves that it was only a temporary attraction that would eventually disappear with time. But instead of fading away, time only allowed these emotions to become stronger and deeper. This connection is not built only on surface-level attraction. It grows from hidden and ancient roots within the unconscious mind. The unconscious does not easily forget unfinished desires or emotional experiences. It quietly waits for the right person or the right moment to bring those buried feelings back into awareness. You entered their life like a psychological key that unlocked a hidden door, releasing powerful emotions they had spent years trying to avoid and control. This awakening creates a quiet tension because the unconscious mind influences their choices and reactions without asking for permission or waiting for approval. While obsession may appear peaceful and controlled from the outside, it often grows through silent overthinking, repeated memories, endless mental conversations, and constant attention toward you. They replay old discussions in their mind again and again, not because they intentionally choose to, but because something inside them feels unable to stop. You have become connected to an unfinished psychological pattern within their deeper self, becoming a symbol of something meaningful they once lost, something they never received, or something they believed they were not worthy enough to experience. This creates an emotional weight because loving you forces them to face a painful contradiction inside themselves. One part of their mind wants to move closer to you, while another part fights with the same intensity to protect itself. This resistance does not mean they do not care. It means that caring deeply forces them to confront emotions and truths they may have avoided for most of their life. This inner struggle appears outwardly through mixed signals, unexpected hesitation, moments of intense closeness, and sudden periods of distance. You can sense this imbalance because one powerful force pulls them toward you, while another force pushes them away toward what feels familiar and safe. They are not truly uncertain about who you are as a person. Instead, they feel overwhelmed by their own internal world because you have awakened a part of themselves that refuses to follow ordinary rules or simple explanations. This part operates through emotion, forgotten memories, and deeply buried desires. It remembers experiences and feelings they believed they had already moved beyond long ago. Once this hidden part becomes active, it begins creating questions that are difficult for them to answer quickly. Those questions ask why this connection feels strangely familiar, why it creates so much fear, and why they feel such a powerful attraction toward it while also wanting to escape from its intensity. Comment obsessed if you feel this message connects with your situation. If you felt this intense and confusing pull from someone who simply cannot let you go, their mind begins to experience a quiet division during this period. The conscious part of them searches for stability, peace, and emotional safety, while the unconscious part looks for complete healing and closure from unresolved issues of the past. But true resolution often requires some kind of inner disturbance before it can finally happen. They begin creating distance between you, not because they truly want to lose the connection, but because they are trying to regain a sense of control over themselves and their emotions. They convince themselves that creating space will help calm the overwhelming feelings, that stepping away will allow them to think more clearly, and that enough time will naturally weaken the attachment they feel toward you. But distance often works in the opposite way when unconscious emotions are involved. Instead of reducing the attachment, it can make those feelings become even stronger than they were before. When someone is no longer present, the small, everyday details begin to disappear, and imagination starts filling the empty spaces. Imagination becomes the perfect environment where obsession and longing can grow to their strongest form. At this point, you are no longer simply another person who exists within their daily reality. You have transformed into an idea, a powerful mental image, and a symbol connected to everything inside them that they still struggle to understand completely. Projections hold incredible emotional power because they do not have natural boundaries to stop them. With time, they continue expanding and changing. They become more meaningful, more idealized, and more important in their mind as the days continue to pass. This process makes it extremely difficult for them to truly detach because their connection is no longer based only on your real personality, your actions, or the moments you shared together. They have become attached to the version of you that exists within their own thoughts, memories, and emotions. That inner image of you becomes something they feel almost impossible to replace with another person. If this explains why their love seems like a combination of intense desire and deep fear, understand that the situation becomes even more complicated because they do not completely trust the emotions they are experiencing. They question the strength of their feelings. They wonder how everything between you developed so quickly and why the connection affected them so deeply. They think about why you continue appearing in their thoughts and why their emotions seem to influence their daily behavior. Anything that feels this powerful can also feel dangerous. Their mind recognizes that intensity and begins searching for protection, so it creates walls filled with doubt, hesitation, worry, and fear. These walls are not built to destroy the feelings. They are created as a shield against what those feelings may eventually ask them to confront. If they fully accepted how deeply they feel about you, they would have to examine every hidden desire they avoided, every unresolved wound they carried, and every truth they have kept buried within themselves. The human mind does not willingly enter that level of self-examination without creating resistance first. Because of this, they remain trapped in a difficult middle ground. They feel pulled strongly in opposite directions at the same time. They want your presence, but they also resist getting too close. They think about you constantly, yet they sometimes intentionally try to create distance. They experience emotions deeply, but they reveal very little on the outside. This creates an invisible pressure inside them that does not simply disappear with time. Instead, it slowly grows beneath the surface, quietly becoming stronger until eventually something has to change, something has to break, or something has to be released. The deeper question you should consider is what happens when this emotional pressure becomes too powerful to continue holding inside. Because eventually, it reaches that point. The human mind cannot carry such intense inner conflict forever without creating some kind of transformation. When that breaking point arrives, it does not always happen in the way you might expect. Sometimes it leads to a sincere confession of feelings. Sometimes it creates complete silence and withdrawal. Sometimes it causes actions that seem confusing, unusual, or even damaging to the person experiencing them. When unconscious emotions become stronger, normal logic begins losing its control and deeper feelings start influencing decisions. That specific moment changes everything. It becomes the point where they can no longer pretend that these emotions are temporary, meaningless, or something they can simply ignore. They are forced to face the reality of what has been developing between you. That moment approaches whether they feel ready for it or not, because what you awakened inside them carries a lasting impact. It remains hidden beneath the surface, waiting. It cannot be permanently pushed away or forgotten. Eventually, it demands some type of answer, understanding, or closure. Every form of resolution comes with its own cost. The only uncertainty is what they are willing to sacrifice in order to avoid confronting the truth of what they feel for you. But there comes a stage when the mind can no longer continue negotiating with itself. The ability to suppress those emotions has limits. and their feelings for you have already moved beyond those limits. You can observe this development happening in the silent spaces between your conversations, in the moments when nothing is being said, but something inside them continues to shift. There is a heavy kind of emotional pressure that can feel almost impossible for them to carry at certain moments. It does not disappear quickly or fade away easily. Instead, it remains quietly present, waiting, because the inner balance they once had has been disturbed and their emotional world no longer feels the same. Pressure within the human mind always searches for some form of release. The mind cannot hold intense contradictions forever without trying to find an escape or a way to process what is happening. But release does not always arrive as calm acceptance or peaceful understanding. Sometimes it appears as confusion, emotional exhaustion, or even a personal collapse where everything they have avoided begins demanding attention. This stage becomes extremely difficult for them because what they are experiencing has moved far beyond simple attraction, temporary interest, or ordinary curiosity. It has become a confrontation with hidden parts of their own personality and emotions that they have kept buried for a long time. They are not only dealing with feelings for you, they are being forced to face parts of themselves they have spent years avoiding. Those hidden parts were shaped by previous pain, old emotional wounds, experiences of rejection, and deep beliefs that quietly convinced them they were not enough. Somewhere inside, they may have carried the belief that they were too complicated, too emotional, too difficult to love, or that allowing someone close would only lead to disappointment and hurt. Then you entered their life, and without trying to prove anything or force anything, your presence began challenging those old beliefs. Simply being yourself created a contradiction inside them. The way you connected with them, understood them, or made them feel noticed started questioning everything they had accepted about themselves for years. Share this video if you want others to understand the hidden psychological reason why someone can become deeply attached to another person. The mind does not accept powerful contradictions easily. When something challenges a person's existing identity, their thoughts often begin searching for ways to protect what they already know. They may try to explain it away, minimize it, or convince themselves that it is not as meaningful as it feels. Accepting you completely would require them to change the way they view themselves, their emotions, and their ability to be loved. That kind of internal transformation does not happen comfortably. It creates tension, fear, and a deep emotional struggle. Instead of smoothly accepting this new understanding, they often become divided internally. One part of them wants to move closer to you. That part desires connection, honesty, and the powerful feeling of finally being understood by someone. It wants to experience the rare comfort of being seen without needing to hide or pretend. But another part of them reacts with resistance. It creates hesitation, doubt, and silent warnings that they may not even fully understand. This part tells them that getting closer is dangerous, that opening up could lead to pain, and that allowing someone to see their true self could expose weaknesses they have spent years protecting. The closer they feel to you, the more vulnerable they become with their own emotions. That level of vulnerability can feel threatening to someone who has built strong emotional defenses. On an unconscious level, being deeply seen can feel similar to being in danger because it challenges the protective identity they created to survive. You are no longer just someone they enjoy spending time with. You have become someone who represents a challenge to the emotional structure they built around themselves. You have reached a place inside them that many people never reached before. The identities people create for survival do not disappear easily. They defend themselves strongly, sometimes in ways that appear confusing or even harmful. The mind begins creating explanations and stories that make the situation feel less overwhelming. Maybe these feelings will disappear eventually. Maybe this connection is not as significant as it seems. Maybe they are imagining the depth of it. These thoughts appear because accepting the truth would require them to admit that this bond is real and that it touches something deeper than previous experiences. They are not always trying to understand what they feel. Sometimes they are trying to control it. They are attempting to place limits around something that feels too powerful because accepting it fully would force them into unfamiliar emotional territory. However, no matter how much they try to use logic to silence these feelings, their deeper mind does not always follow those commands. Their attraction toward you continues quietly. It remains present and continues growing in ways they may not openly acknowledge. Something within them keeps reminding them that this connection matters, that it carries meaning, and that it cannot simply be ignored forever. The more they push it away, the more their inner world reacts. Strong emotions that remain unexpressed do not simply disappear. They transform into other experiences. They may appear as restlessness, repeated thoughts, emotional tension, unnecessary worries, or the constant feeling that something important is missing from their life. Comment below if you realize that you became their unconscious emotional trigger. Even when everything else around them appears normal, you may become connected with that feeling of emptiness they cannot explain. This does not happen because they intentionally chose it. It happens because their mind has connected your presence with something meaningful, something emotionally important, something that feels difficult to replace. Small moments where their control weakens begin happening more frequently. There are times when their emotional defenses become lower and they almost reveal everything they feel. They may almost express their true thoughts, almost show the depth of their emotions, or almost allow you to understand how strongly this connection affects them. Then suddenly they pull back again. Sometimes they withdraw even more than before because they become frightened by the intensity of their own emotions. They are not only afraid of losing control over the situation, they are afraid of discovering how deeply they have actually been affected. They fear the strength of what they feel, and they fear realizing that the emotional walls they built for protection are no longer as strong as they believed. The struggle happening inside them is not simply about another person. It is about facing a part of themselves they have avoided for a very long time.